Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. So, Ticketmaster seems to me to be like one of those brands where everybody knows the brand Ticketmaster. And if you've ever been to an event, you've probably bought a ticket through Ticketmaster. They pretty much own the entire market. But I think few people probably understand what the company is really about, how it's set up internally. I thought it might be good to help the audience understand who Ticketmaster is as a company.
For sure. First of all, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. So my name's Michael Chua. I work for Ticketmaster. And to your point, Dave, if you've ever seen a concert in Madison Square Garden or Radio City, or have been at a Yankees game or a Raptors game, shout out to the Raptors jersey in the audience. I saw you go Raps. If you've done any of those things, you've been a customer of ours at some point. We're the largest global ticketer. We operate in 23 markets. Annually, we process about 500 million tickets. And I think when you do the math, we sell about 12 tickets a second. Ticketmaster operates in two sides of the business. So we have our consumer marketplace, you would know it as tm.com, and our app. It's where fans come to discover live events and to buy tickets. We also have a massive enterprise business. So this is our B2B side of the business, where we have 12,000 clients. In our world, clients are venues, promoters, and artists. They're using our products to power their box offices, to build their events, manage them, put them on sale. And we're happy to be the leader in that enterprise respect as well.
And I understand that you're set up kind of like in different divisions within Ticketmaster. Like, for example, you're part of the distributed commerce.
I am.
Is there any more to unpack there so the team can kind of understand?
Yeah, let's unpack it. So I work for the distributed commerce team. I oversee business development. And basically, distributed commerce comprises of all our efforts to surface discovery of our events and to sell tickets off platform through third parties using a couple API products that my team maintains. So we work with massive discovery platforms like Spotify and YouTube who direct traffic over to Ticketmaster. We work with e-commerce companies like Groupon that sell tickets as a category, and they sell some of our inventory and we fulfill it on the back end. It also involves our efforts to go deeper in ecosystems like Facebook and Google, where we're creating products with them across their family of apps, which has been really exciting. So all in, our business will probably do about $1 billion in ticket value this year.
Wow, okay. You say that so coolly and calmly, but I don't think it's always been that way.
I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
Inside, yeah.
Things must move fast inside Ticketmaster, because as I understand it, you had a traditional affiliate network program in place.
We did.
A number of years ago, 3 years ago, more than 3 years ago. It might be good to share with the audience the journey that you've been on with regards to partnerships, and specifically within distributed commerce, because the team that you just mentioned, the API infrastructure you just mentioned, the products you just mentioned, I don't think has existed for very long.
Yeah, it's a really good point. So I was basically just joined this team 4 years ago when they just came up with this moniker, distributed commerce, which was basically born out of the idea that two of our partner marketing channels, our affiliate channel and our channel partnership channel, could be united under a common API framework that would optimize our affiliates and our top channel partners. So let's use affiliates, for example. To your point, our affiliate business used to be super straightforward, local blogs, pulling links from Ticketmaster and just sending us traffic, and we would commission on originating sales. As we try to work with, go up funnel, work with bigger platforms, some of those ecosystems like Facebook and Google, we need to build more sophisticated products so those companies could pull our event data at scale and create deeper experiences on their platform and for their audiences. So that required creating, for example, just data feeds that could be accessed by a single API, and to make those available to those partners, and then potentially a number of partners who could plug into that same infrastructure. A second API that we built was a transactional API. So this would actually allow some of those affiliates to actually power native experiences, so full end-to-end purchase experiences, whereas in a traditional affiliate model, it's all link over, right? But we actually built a commerce API to allow full purchase experiences on select platforms.
Okay.
In the channel partnership business, so let's use Groupon as an example again. These are companies that would work with our clients to get allocations of inventory, and they would sell them in their storefront, sometimes at special value or pricing. So for that business, we needed APIs that would allow those companies to pull real-time inventory that was designated to them by our clients and make them available on their .com, and then also transactable. So that was the same API that I mentioned, that commerce API. And all of that was just unified in this single API architecture that my team built and maintains. And it was used to, one, optimize those two partner channels, but then also make them available for whoever wants to plug in and start merchandising our content.
Yeah, so that's, there's a lot there.
There's
right?
a lot there.
I mean, that is a very transformational sort of decision, I think, internally inside Ticketmaster, kind of go in that direction. It sounds like you're building products for your partners. I mean, that's not affiliate links. This is, you're building something. Was there like some sort of moment in time internally? Like what was the catalyst for that kind of thinking? Can you recall back when the company started thinking that way?
Yeah, a lot of it was to actually service the demand that we were hearing from some of our top affiliates. And a lot of these companies have specific motivations and some kind of shared value either for their customer or some stakeholders in common. So, whether it was, concert discovery apps like Bands-In-Town, they're one of our big partners, wanting to provide just a full-on discovery and ticketing purchase that required a transactional API. For a more complicated example, like Facebook, for example, if you want to get into that. Previously, Facebook had a pretty fragmented event experience. So when, an Ariana Grande concert was happening at Madison Square Garden, that event card would be built by Ariana Grande's team, Live Nation, the promoter would build their own event card, Ticketmaster might do their own. So you had these fragmented instances of the same event, and that made it very difficult to aggregate all the awareness and the interaction with the event, the likes, the shares. So we worked with Facebook at a pretty foundational level for us to power that single event experience, that canonical product card. And then from there, have that populated across all the different touch points. And that also created a ton of automation for our clients. Not everyone had to go create that event anymore. So
I want to make sure that I got that point right, just so the audience understands. So you essentially were paying Facebook a commission on a ticket sale?
No, I won't comment on any of that. I think it's more.
All right, I crossed the line I should have crossed. Big public companies here. We don't want to upset anybody.
It's more, a lot of these companies, they want to organize information and provide utility to their audiences.
Right.
And in a lot of ways, that drives, a lot of other considerations.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because I think Ticketmaster has a pretty amazing set of content, right?
Totally.
That's unique to you.
Yeah.
You've got the fortunate position of not competing with Amazon, on something, right? That's an incredible library of content assets. So was that central to your new partnership strategy, thinking that you've got something that you can make available to a partner that would enhance their customer experience or their audience experience? And is that essentially what you build a product around? Is kind of
completely core. So yeah, you hit it on the head. It's the uniqueness of our product. So again, returning to our model, we have 12,000 clients building their events directly with our software and inputting all that metadata, right, for the events. So in aggregate, that metadata is super unique and compelling to a number of these companies that have any kind of strategy in live event discovery or connecting people over events. And we can really be a source of truth there. And just because of our scale, the brand, the trust that you mentioned, the globality, we're in 23 markets, that affords us a really unique position in these conversations where we can work with these companies directly.
How are you thinking about the customer experience for both your partner and you?
Yeah.
as well, because it just seems to make sense. A lot of the examples where, if people are on Facebook, they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
They're there to socialize and connect about a concert, typically.
Totally.
We talked about the Spotify example earlier in my opening remark. It just makes sense that you're in Spotify to see a list of events. Was that central to your thinking or your partner's thinking, or is it kind of a collection, hey, this is the right thing to do?
Yeah, I think it comes from both sides. And our strategy has always been to partner with endemic verticals and the top companies in those verticals. And if we're true in that philosophy, what we're building together should just make sense. And when you see in the wild, it should just be super simple and straightforward to the user. So I could point to a couple examples. I'll use a couple streaming partners. So YouTube, for example, we're aligned on supporting artist careers. A lot of people first engage with artists when they're streaming with them on Spotify or watching their videos on YouTube. A lot of artists make their money on the road these days. That's just kind of the state of that industry. So, we would work with YouTube where we could use them as a discovery platform, but then also surface event content, which is great for artists, and it's also just kind of makes sense for the user. So, look, if you want to know what it looks like, you could just YouTube Madonna, Ariana Grande, look at their top video. Right under the watch surface, you'll see an on-tour module that basically shows all upcoming dates, and it's optimized for the nearest date to that user, right? And so super simple, super elegant, just makes sense. But it's all built off a good deal of engineering and indexing of our data on YouTube's behalf. And it's all powered by those APIs that I mentioned.
Okay. So let's talk about partners to the extent you feel comfortable giving a couple partner examples, both endemic, non-endemic. What other stories can we tell about the types of partners that you're working with?
Yeah, so I mentioned some of like the endemic examples like YouTube. It just makes sense. So we do the same thing with Spotify and for Pandora. So you're listening to Spotify, you scroll through the artist feed, you'll see contextual events. We also power their concerts tab. We do the same thing for Pandora in stream. This artist is coming on tour. So that stuff just kind of makes sense. I think where we've seen some cool new opportunities, the travel vertical is hugely opportunistic for us. And so we're seeing big players in travel starting to compete in the experiences economy, right?
Yeah.
It's not about just the hotel or the flight booking. Now you want to book your tours and activities, and then you want to buy your event tickets.
Yep.
You want to know what's in destination. And so their whole experience is predicated on a seamless experience, all kind of in the same platform, right? And so we already have the API infrastructure to be able to enable that. So that's really been an exciting vertical for us, and we'll be rolling out some stuff.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about people.
Okay.
We talked about your technology infrastructure. What are, if any, people associated with building these APIs or other products that you're having to make available to your different partners? And is that all internal to Ticketmaster?
So we have a standalone group purely dedicated to bringing on new partners and servicing them and maintaining them. So I work with a 12-person product and engineering team based out of LA that bears the real brunt of the work, actually creating these products with our partners, continuing to improve on our technology. And then as far as like day-to-day account management, so we basically service those two businesses that I mentioned, our affiliate program and our channel partner program. So we have business owners for those two groups, and they have teams as well that work on the day-to-day account management and operationalizing of those partners, getting them set up on Impact, for example. And then far as BD goes, the team, you're looking at him, it's me. Yeah, sorry to disappoint, but and then we all roll up to the head of distributed commerce.
Well, I think that's part of, well, actually, one more question on tech, because I swear this is not a shameless plug, but I think the audience would be interested in so you've got tech internally to make your content available to partners. What do you rely, what do you rely on impact for in terms of tech to do what you're doing within partnerships?
Okay, cool. Yeah, here's my plug. So
I swear it wasn't
the whole premise of our tech is to just make it as scalable as possible. So we build this common API, theoretically hundreds, actually in hundreds, it can just tap into it and get going. We have to apply the same philosophy towards the underlying data rails that basically support all these programs. So, in Impact, we were really looking for that platform of record that would really provide the data feedback for all our partners. So everything we do from an insights perspective, from measuring the health of any given partner, and just as importantly, allowing partners to self-serve that data for themselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was a very different strategy from 3+ years ago,
Totally.
right? On a network.
Yep.
It might be good to kind of share what you were experiencing there, what you decided you didn't need back then, and what you needed was a more tech product-focused approach to partnerships.
Yeah. Look, so our motivation this time around was less about a need for leads or distribution. It was about servicing the inbound demand that we're already seeing. So for us, it wasn't about plugging into a network that had the largest distribution. We have about 12 people hitting our inbound channel a day asking to sell our content. So what we were really looking for was the best product that could be modular for different kind of partnerships that we could build on top. And just the quality and the servicing, that was most important. I will also say, though, what is important, so as much as I spend my time on kind of like the big strategic partners, we needed a plug-and-play manner to work with any long-tail or mid-tail partners that came into us, local blogs or up-and-coming companies, whatever they may be. So through Impact, that afforded a way to really scale that part of our business, which doesn't constitute the majority of our performance, but is still really important to the health of the program, and also to identify any outliers that we could go deeper with.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about your hit list, your target list of partners.
Yeah.
And kind of how you go about pursuing them, like recruiting them on as partners. I think people in the audience would probably be interested to know, how do you go after somebody like Spotify or even Facebook? I'm assuming that you didn't just send them an email saying, would you like to join my affiliate program?
Yeah.
How do you go about it? Like, who do you call in those organizations? Who are you trying to meet with?
It's a good question.
What do you say to them? I mean, it's
Hey,
helpful to
what's
be
up?
Ticketmaster, I guess. So you got some weight behind you.
We do have the name, and the name does carry a lot of weight. So, I think I'm going to have a different perspective here, partnership perspectives. I'm going to have a different perspective here than a lot of people in the room who are selling a SaaS product to a sea of companies. So, for my business development strategy is we have this unique content. A lot of people want to engage with it, create their own products. So for me, it's about identifying, what are the top 5 companies, if I were to poll the room, that really have an influence on mobile and web traffic, we'd come up with the same 5 companies. If we did the next 6 or 10, we'd probably more or less get those as well. That's my hit list. And then I would extend it for some endemic verticals to ticketing. So music streaming companies, all of us would come up with the top 5. And then in travel, it's not hard to figure out who are the 2 major players or 3 in that category as well. So for me, it's much more about a focused hit list versus really actively selling. But once I have that hit list, it's about cultivating and mining those relationships.
Okay, so I'm assuming the Pareto Rule applies here, the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
So this is like a really interesting dynamic that I'm just observing here, and that is you have a small business development team, basically, right? Team of how many? Couple?
One.
Not
that small though.
Backed by a product and engineering team, like building products to kind of make, and contributing at a significant level to drive more ticket sales for an organization. That's a very different model.
Yeah,
and it may not be directly applicable to other enterprises that we've heard from today, but there's definitely something there. This is not a traditional sales or marketing sort of go-to-market strategy, way to drive revenue.
Yeah.
It is a new model, if you will, right?
Sorry, what?
A new model, if you will, for business, in terms of how.
I think so, and I think it just comes back to our lean approach towards everything, and it's more about how to manage the reality of our business. So you mentioned the Pareto Rule, like 20-80, right? So I think that almost naturally exists across any company.
Yep.
That a handful of your partners will generate outsized performance. So for us, if we do a good job of mining those handful of partners and going deeper with them, because a lot of our growth is predicated on their growth. So let's use like a Spotify or a YouTube, right? Like you're taking a bet and playing along with them that they're gonna acquire new customers and build their audiences. And their ability to better personalize and target our content, there we're really just scratching the surface with a lot of these partners as well. So I spend most of my time focusing on those partners, but it's still important to service all those other ones, right? The 80% in kind of a turnkey, scalable way.
Yeah, okay. What tips do you have for the audience in kind of pursuing new partnerships or even maintaining existing ones, just maintaining those relationships?
Yeah, that's a good question.
And even like negotiating, these partnerships, getting them in place to begin with.
Yeah. So I think partner empathy is an expression that's thrown out a lot. It's good business to make your partner successful, making them a hero. I think if you even peel that back, go a deeper layer, just having empathy towards your counterpart, right, who you're negotiating with, really how are they going to be viewed as successful in their organization? Yeah. What are they being measured on in this deal? And look, what are kind of like the constraints they're facing? What, are they short on resources? What are their pain points? So I think being empathetic at the individual level and not just like, oh, this is great for our companies, that's been really important because especially if you're dealing with some of these companies, they're all measured differently. They all have varying red tape, right, or stakeholders. Trying to demystify that definitely helps getting deals done. And I think as part of that, deal templating, right, like nice in concept, it just hasn't worked in my experience. Like every vertical has different motivations, different needs, and every company within those verticals have different needs. Sometimes it's revenue driven. Sometimes it's about how the tech can give the best customer experience. Sometimes it's just about the quality of the data. So I think out of all the deals that I've done, they've all been truly custom. I think it's more important to just, at a foundational level, figure out what's needed to protect the integrity of your business, whether it means margin protection or selling period restrictions, right? Figure out what those 3-4 tenets are, and then build on top of those. But in my experience now, every deal's been unique.
I don't know if this applies, but I was looking at your background a little bit. I understood you spent some time with Morgan Stanley, private equity space. I don't know if that had much influence on the work that you're doing now, but I also heard it in another panel session that we had, just understanding where people are coming from that are getting into these more customized deals. Does that have any influence, do you think, on the skills that are required to put these types of deals together, do you think?
So I don't know if this is a shocker or not, but no, not at all. It really didn't. And so yeah, I spent my first 3 years of my career in like a traditional finance role, and honestly, it's surprising how not self-sufficient you are in those really big organizations. A lot of times, the models you're working on they're templatized. You just put in inputs, and if you changed it, everything broke. In terms of like creating a deck, you could outsource that to India overnight. It's there in your inbox, right? Like you didn't really have to put a contract together. That was all done by the legal department. So I think it actually, especially in digital right now, all that goes away. You kind of got to just be completely self-sufficient. And you're only really, other people are only the bottleneck if you can't do it yourself. So I actually think it's been much more of an awakening going into digital companies, leaner companies versus what my experience was. I got my ass kicked for 3 years, so I guess it built
so maybe,
character.
You learned something there maybe. But in terms of, you've been on quite a journey with Ticketmaster and Live Nation Entertainment before that. It seems like what you've been working on for the last 3-4 years with Ticketmaster is pretty transformative to not just Ticketmaster and how they're driving ticket sales, but I think for yourself professionally. Any reflection on what the journey's been like for the last 2-3 years for you professionally?
Yeah, it's a good question. Look, I think I don't have a tech background. When I originally, even before this role, I came from the Live Nation side, and I worked in building a sponsorship business for our electronic music division, which meant, creating products for traditional sponsorship, right? Like it was not tech driven. And when I got this opportunity, I didn't even know what an API stood for, let alone what it does. I'll probably get it wrong too today. But I took the opportunity, and going on 4 years now, I've had the privilege of negotiating and building tech products with the biggest tech companies in the world, right? So I didn't study this, I had no experience, but I guess the takeaway is that everything's teachable if you're open to it, and you can uncomplicate things.
Good.
Over
Okay.
time.
Excellent. Give us a sense on where this goes, like how the work that you're doing with partnerships. Is it just getting bigger with still a very lean team? Do you see this team getting bigger? What's kind of your outlook over the next couple of years for these partnership initiatives?
Yeah, it's a good question because, as lean as we are, first of all, we don't necessarily scale with just more salespeople for all the reasons I mentioned. But there are new verticals that we're getting into that do require just more help. So because we have this API infrastructure in place, my team has actually built our new surfaces strategy, which basically comprises of all the voice tech and everything we're doing with Amazon Alexa or Google Assistant or Samsung Bixby, right? Because we already had these API products in place, we've had a real first mover advantage in exploring this format. So you can actually buy a Ticketmaster ticket entirely through voice, through any of those products I mentioned, Alexa, Google Assistant, Samsung. And so as we start to explore some of these opportunities that were kind of unexpected, we certainly have to scale the team appropriately. Again, mostly kind of like on the dev and product side, but account management as well, and I could certainly use some help.
Very good. Okay, there you go. You heard it from Michael. We're coming up on time. I don't see a question here in Slido, but any parting shot? Raise of hands, a question for Michael before we part? I do have one last question for him before we break. No one from the audience? Okay, Michael, you're working for an entertainment company, Ticketmaster. Either your favorite or most recent concert or event that you've been to?
Oh, that one's tough. I feel you warned me about this too. Okay, so let's go more recent. I did see Ariana Grande.
Do you follow Marla Catherine on YouTube?
Pardon me?
Do you follow Marla Catherine on YouTube? It's an inside joke. It's from my opening remarks.
I don't know if I know that one.
She's an influencer for textile.
So speaking
Fabletics.
of it,
She's 15.
Yeah. So I was the only non-15-year-old girl in the audience. And speaking of influencer, I was seated behind an influencer who was broadcasting himself the entire concert. And I was just behind him trying to weave out of the frame, like the Matrix, because I don't make for compelling content. And so, yeah, it was a pretty strange experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's great. Go see her.
Ariana Grande and Madison Square Garden. Nice perks for Ticketmaster. But anyway, thank you, Michael, for your time today and for being a client of Impact. We appreciate it.